I don't think we have enough states.
Yes, I agree. I think we should have more. I agree with you entirely.
What's the mechanism? How do you put that in the Constitution? Like, because the problem is, New South Wales, for example, there's David Landini. I've got to give him credit. He says, Joel, first of all, we need the Riverina state. A lot of Western New South Wales, cut off a bit of Western New South Wales, along with a little bit of Northern Victoria, we'll call it the Riverina state.
Yes.
And then we've got people in Queensland saying there should be at least another state, maybe two.
Yes.
Up there.
That was the big dispute.
Right. But how do you do
Before
that?
federation.
Yes.
It was still in Queensland in that sense there were moves to have 3 states.
Yes.
Because it's too big geographically.
Yes. So David, do you just poll the postcodes that would split off, or do you have to do the whole state as a result?
You can't do it unless the state agrees. The New South Wales Parliament has to agree.
Why would they?
Why would they?
That's the problem. And it's the problem. First off, you can't... The population centres are stacked against rural Australians. So there's a mechanism problem there. And on top of that, it can't be citizen initiated. We have nothing in this country with referendums is citizen initiated.
Yes, that's what we need.
Right.
We need a convention. There should be an elected convention.
How do you convene a convention with
Only
without
the federal
politicians?
parliament can do it, and they won't do it unless you get somebody
Yes.
coming up. If Dutton, for
a
example,
populist.
yes, you've got to have someone who proposes this and says, if we hold a convention, its recommendations will be put to the people, because they could hold a convention, they could come up with the most brilliant proposals, and then the government says, "Oh, we're not going to do it. They'll put that in a filing cabinet."
David, a convention. How on earth do you even hold one? I mean, how do you pick who comes and speaks? How do you pick the debate and how it's held? I mean, is there an example, a case study we can see how?
Well, we had one before the Republic referendum.
Yep.
The reason we had one was that when Keating came up with a republic, it blew the Liberal Party out of the ocean, as it were, because a number of Liberal politicians wanted it too. They thought it was a good idea. The Liberal Party was divided, and it meant, John Howard knew, well, Downer was the leader at the time. Alexander Downer knew that if they went to the next election, the party would be fighting within itself over a referendum. So Downer came up with the idea that the question would be referred to a convention, elected by the people, half elected and half appointed. That was his proposal. And when John Howard succeeded Downer, he took that on board. When John Howard got in, he then fulfilled the promise. I think John Howard's an honest man and would have wanted to do that anyway, but there would have been outrage in the party if he hadn't. And the convention was half appointed and half elected. Now, it was okay that the other side be appointed by John Howard because he's an honest man. I wouldn't like an appointed referendum. What he did was he said, well, I'm going to appoint people who wouldn't stand. So he appointed some very prominent people, former Chief Justices, people like that who wouldn't go in for political standard. He pointed at Hayden, for example, Bill Hayden, as a former Governor General. And he also appointed young people because they would never get elected. He also appointed some Indigenous people because they would never get elected. So it was a good mix.
Right. And
the rest were elected. Straight into constitutional monarchy stood. We were the dominant constitutional body there. So we had one side was the Australian Republican movement led by Malcolm Turnbull. The other side, the other big side, the big group was ACM, and Tony Abbott was the employed executive director of ACM.
That's right. The reason for my interest in these questions, David, is we're going to have to read a book one day in order to remember how to conduct these things, unfortunately, because not everyone that was engaged with them will be around. And we need this to fix the Constitution and to write a new republic. Yes. It's, in my mind, as much as I valued the Queen and the monarchy, it's just a question of time before our Constitution is not fit for purpose. One day, I'm not blaming it for everything, but I think that there are some clear problems with the way that it was set up so that it doesn't give people an ability, like the citizen-initiated referenda, the ability to correct when the state gets too big and it's already become anathema. It dislikes the public. I mean, how is it that the ACT was the only place for vote for the Voice? Even the Northern Territory rejected the Voice.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes, and then they're saving grace to play the devil's advocate. They're like, oh yeah, but the mobile places in Aboriginal communities, majority Aboriginal, they voted for the Voice. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. If you look at the data, and I will challenge anyone on this, I've got Aboriginal affidavits on this. They stacked the vote in those areas against the Aboriginals. They basically had electoral commission workers doing highly illegal things and telling people this is so that this is an Aboriginal body of people and they will be able to control the Constitution. That is a lie. That was not on the referendum. And electoral commission workers should not be telling people, Aboriginal people, that many of which don't know any better, like Alec Dumagee's mother. Alec Dumagee, Aboriginal fellow, was on the phone with his mum. She was saying, oh, they're telling us, it's for this, it's for that. Electoral commission workers. That should not be taking place. And so I look at these things and I worry that Canberra is striking back because they are losing the thread. We're seeing a third of people vote Labor, a third of people vote Coalition, a third of people vote minor parties, half of which are left parties, half of which are right parties. Australia is fragmenting. It's becoming a lot like Europe's parliaments, democracies. And if we don't get organised as a right, then other people are going to be holding the pen when we do write that republic.
And it is possible for a rich country to become poor. At the time of Federation, incidentally, for Federation, there were 11 referendums.
Wow.
There had to be twice as many. The original referendums were 5. Western Australia didn't hold a referendum early. There were 5 referendums. New South Wales didn't reach the required number of votes because there were aspects which New South Wales wanted changed, so they had to change the Constitution and hold it again. So that's 10. And when they were taking the Constitution, when they took the Constitution to London, Western Australia still hadn't held a referendum and wasn't necessarily going to join the Federation. So the legislation was put through the British Parliament with a provision that it would be proclaimed by the Queen Victoria, once she was satisfied as to whether a decision was taken in Western Australia and whether they wished to join the Federation. Well, the West Australians then held their referendum.
Yep.
So we had 11 referendums to get. And one of the founders had the idea that there should be effectively citizen-initiated referendums, but he was talked out of it by one of the leading people in the Constitutional Convention who argued that responsible government, that is, governments which rise and fall because votes in the lower house effectively achieve the same sort of thing. They're so sensitive to people's views. That was true to an extent because we had a number of parties. Once you got a tight two-party system, which soon came in, the question of what the lower house does is determined by what happens at the election. And that's, unless somebody breaks, and it would probably have to, in most cases, be a number of people broke away from the ruling party, the lower house is not going to change the government of the day. No,
and a lot of things have changed. The Senate was never meant to be politicised. You weren't meant to have senators that were in political parties, but that's happened. And so there's a huge problem that's happened where these major parties, they cut deals. For example, with John Ruddick's party in 2021, 2022, the Liberals, Labor, they teamed up and they said, basically, you can't even have the word Liberal in your name. If there is a party with a word already in the existing political parties with an MP, then you can't use that word. So the Libertarian Party, if they didn't get someone elected, they were gone. Democratic Labor Party, been around forever, they're gone. And that's my worry. So let's go back, let's talk detail. Citizen-initiated referenda. Obviously, you don't want any Tom, Dick and Harry to do a referendum and then put it to the people. We'd have thousands of referendums every election, maybe more. what percentage or threshold would you have to reach, either with an official petition or whatever? Would you put that? Would you do it like as a percentage, 5% of the electorate?
I think it would have to be a percentage of the electorate.
Right.
I don't think you'd need a double rule that you have a percentage of the electorate in a certain number of states. That would make it too complicated. Just the percentage of the total electorate.
Okay.
And I would have a low percentage, but I think it should be managed very carefully in that the petitioners would have to be verified.
Of course. Yes.
You couldn't have fake signatures coming in. You'd have to really people who were willing to bear the burden of being a petitioner.
Yep.
So you wouldn't need that many,
Yes.
and I wouldn't say too high a percentage.
Yeah.
But there should also, in fact, I drafted a change of the Constitution to provide for it.
Oh, you did?
And what should happen if there is a petition? That should change the Constitution. You can't have the situation which I think they have in New Zealand where, oh yes, you can have citizen-initiated referenda, but we can then wipe our noses with it or something like that.
No.
You know,
like a plebiscite where it's non-binding. It's just like a poll.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, what's the point of that? You might as well just have an opinion poll.
Sure, for sure.
It's a waste of time.
Yes.
It must have legal effect.